There's this one moment in all of human history that claims to have changed everything. But it wasn't a great battle. It wasn't the founding of some massive empire. No, it was something else entirely.
It wasn't a war that decided the fate of nations. And it wasn't the rise of some powerful new kingdom either. No, the turning point of all history, according to this account, happened in the quiet darkness of a sealed tomb, a single moment when death itself was supposedly defeated.
But, to really grasp the sheer scale of that claim, we have to understand the opponent. We have to look at the one universal law that governed all of humanity before that moment.
I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, there was this one single reality that was absolutely unavoidable. Everyone dies. That's it. Kings, empires, whole generations, they all just faded away. It didn't matter how much power or wealth or wisdom you could gather, death always had the final say. It was the ultimate undefeated ruler of the world.
Until one morning. One morning when something happened that had never happened before. The universal law was broken. A man who had been publicly executed, who had been buried, simply walked out of his own tomb.
He is not here. He has risen. These are the words recorded in the ancient accounts, the words spoken by an angel right there at the empty grave. Just let that sink in for a second. He is not here. He has risen. This wasn't just another miracle. No, this was a declaration that death's reign was over.
And then the angel asks this really profound question. It's aimed at the women who came to the tomb, sure, but man, it just echoes right down to us today. Why do you seek the living among the dead?
That ancient question, it really puts a finger on the human condition, doesn't it? We spend our entire lives searching for meaning, for real life, in things that are just destined to decay. In success, in money, in pleasure. We're looking for life in all the wrong places. We're seeking the living among the dead.
So, okay, if death was really defeated, what does that actually mean? What are the implications? Let's dig in and investigate the clues left behind in these accounts, because what they claim is absolutely cosmic.
The Apostle Paul, he uses this really specific agricultural term, first fruits, like the first part of a harvest. And he says Christ's resurrection is the first fruit. So the whole point here, the really crucial thing to get, is that it wasn't supposed to be this isolated one-time event. No, it was the guarantee. It was the promise that a much, much bigger harvest, a future resurrection for all of humanity, was on its way.
And this just completely flips the script. It's a radical shift in perspective. Just think about that. The tomb, the one thing that was universally seen as the final chapter, the end, was transformed. It became a passageway, a doorway, into something totally new.
And then you have this declaration from the risen Christ himself, recorded in the book of Revelation. It's a claim of a fundamental transfer of power. I am the living one, and I hold the keys of death and Hades.
So, back in the ancient world, keys were everything. They represented absolute authority. If you held the keys, you were the one in charge. So this statement, it's a direct claim that the authority that once belonged to death has been seized. Death is no longer the final jailer.
But the story, it doesn't just stop there. This whole event, it doesn't just redefine the past. It actually pulls back the curtain on a vision for the future of humanity and the world itself. So biblical prophecy talks about this future time, a period called the Millennial Kingdom. We're talking about a literal 1,000-year period where Christ will reign right here on earth, a time when the world will finally experience a kind of government it has never, ever known.
Just try to imagine it, a kingdom with zero corruption, a world where truth is the actual law of the land and where justice flows straight from the throne of the king who conquered death itself. I mean, that is the future that's promised.
And here's where it all comes back to you and me. To the individual. The promise isn't just about some distant future kingdom. It's about who gets to be a part of it. The claim is that the very same cosmic power that brought Jesus out of that grave is promised to his followers. So, what does that mean for your life today?
And this is where this entire, epic, cosmic story becomes incredibly personal. It shifts from being just a historical event to a present-day summons, an invitation.
Because this whole story, it forces a question on every single one of us. And it's not just some intellectual puzzle. It's a matter of the heart. What do you truly believe happens when this life is over?
Look, if this one event, if the resurrection is actually real, then it changes everything. Suddenly, this life we're living isn't the main event anymore. It's the preparation. It completely reframes our suffering, our successes, our deepest fears. Because death is no longer the end. It's just a transition.
And that leads to the ultimate question, really. The resurrection isn't presented as just a fact to believe in, but as an invitation to be accepted, an invitation into a life that death can't touch. So the question is, are you prepared for that life that comes after?
The core claim is this simple: death has been defeated. The power that held humanity in fear for thousands of years has been broken. And the one who did it isn't some dusty figure from the past. He's a living king.
And after all the theology, all the prophecy, it all comes back to one simple, world-altering fact: the tomb is empty.